Tonight, all is not well at the White House. Inflation, record levels. Businesses, they can't find employees. More lockdowns are now imminent, even supported by the administration. A southern border, well, that's an unmitigated disaster. Violent crime is rising in almost every major city in this country. Russia is hacking critical supply lines each and every month. China is openly now threatening the United States, our military, and our allies. Iran is back to enriching uranium at an alarming rate, and the withdrawal from Afghanistan is a poorly planned debacle. Now we're leaving behind tons of arms and munitions for the Taliban. Now, this administration is unraveling far faster than we even expected. And worst of all, no one knows who is in charge. As we told you earlier in the week, 57% now of Americans, they see what we've been talking about and few others have, and that is, and by the way, 58% of independents, even a third of Democrats see it, and so does America's enemies. The one thing that most agree on, it's definitely not Joe Biden running the show. And today, yet again, he struggled to get words out during his one and only publicly scheduled event. Such a tough schedule he has. Take a look.
We went for two reasons. One, to bring Osama bin Laden to the gates of hell, as I said at the time. The second reason was to eliminate al-Qaeda's capacity to deal with more attacks in the United States from that territory. We accomplished both of those objectives, period.
Just keep counting. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. Maybe when you get to 10, 1,000, Joe will speak. And by the way, Joe, you opposed the raid to get bin Laden. As I said earlier this week, I honestly can no longer laugh. I can't joke about Biden's cognitive struggles. Everyone can see he is in really bad shape. Our allies see it. Our enemies see it. The majority now of the American people, they're seeing it. And it's downright dangerous. Now things are so bad, Joe needs the help of no cards, even after briefings with his staff less than an hour prior. Now, Joe's not calling the shots. He's not making decisions. Instead, it appears that he's just trying to barely get through that one scheduled event a day. It is pathetic. And here's the next obvious question. Who is making the decisions? And who knew what and who knew what when about Joe's condition? For reference, let's take a look at Joe Biden. This is from 2012. You'll notice two things in this upcoming clip. One, Joe Biden brags about being against the bin Laden raid that took out the world's worst terrorist. And two, Joe Biden was, well, let's put it charitably, in a completely different cognitive state in 2012 than he is today. You decide.
He said, I have to make this decision. What is your opinion? He started the National Security Advisor, the Secretary of State, and he ended with me. Every single person in that room hedged their bet, except Leon Panetta. Leon said, go. Everyone else said, 49, 51, this. Got to me and he said, Joe, what do you think? And I said, you know, I didn't know we had so many economists around the table. I said, we owe the man a direct answer. Mr. President, my suggestion is don't go.
My suggestion is don't go. That Joe Biden, by the way, is long gone. Today's weak, frail, cognitively struggling Biden is getting steamrolled by America's enemies. This week alone, we showed you China's hostile rhetoric and violent threats against American and Japanese military bases. China now openly talking about reunification with Taiwan, warning of dire military consequences if America dares to help our ally. Now, we covered many in the latest cyber attacks from Russia. We covered Iran's new uranium enrichment program. We showed you how Russia and China, they have now aligned themselves and teamed up to supply the Iranians so they can fight their proxy wars all over the world, the #1 state sponsor of terror. Clearly, none of these hostile actors fear or respect Joe Biden. Neither does the Taliban. As America withdraws now forces from Afghanistan, we have Taliban extremists. They are moving in quickly. And now we see that they're seizing U.S. weapons and supplies in the process. And then the question is, why on earth would we ever leave munitions, weaponry behind like this, knowing the Taliban would get a hold of it? That is simply madness. They know there'll be no consequences for their actions under this administration. It's so bad that today Biden was even asked if he trusts the Taliban. Take a look.
Mr. President, do you trust the Taliban, sir?
Is that a serious question?
It's absolutely a serious question. Do you trust the Taliban?
No, I do not.
Over the country to the Taliban.
No, I do not trust the Taliban.
So why are you
Is the U.S. responsible for the death of Afghans after you leave?
Mr. President, will you amplify that question, please? Will you amplify your answer, please, why you don't trust the Taliban?
It's a silly question. Do I trust the Taliban? No.
Then why did you leave the weaponry behind? Believe it or not, the press secretary, Jen Psaki, the messaging today on Afghanistan, that was even worse than him. And she said there would be no celebration for the troops coming home because the war had not been won militarily. Okay, take a look.
In terms of plans for the end for our men and women coming back, I don't have anything to preview, but we're not going to have a mission accomplished moment in this regard. It's a 20-year war that has not been won militarily.
If the war was lost, Jen, there's only one reason, and it's a political one. Blame Joe, your boss and company. Militarily, the brave men, the brave women that fought in Afghanistan and decimated al-Qaeda and heroically fought to maintain order in a failed state for 2 decades, Jen Psaki can't be bothered to take the time to give them the appropriate credit, tour after tour after tour that these men served, these women served. I wonder, how does this make the families of soldiers that died in Afghanistan feel tonight? Jen, you might need to circle back and do something called an apology, at the very least. The Biden administration has now botched, totally, completely botched the withdrawal from Afghanistan, just like they're botching America's economic and political response to COVID. And under Biden, the U.S. is now printing money faster than at any point in history. And as a result, that's called inflation. It's running through the roof. That's causing rising prices, massive shortages, a massive financial burden on every single American. Now, thanks to Joe's new Green Deal, the cost of a gallon of gasoline is now at $3 and above in most places, even $5 and higher in places like California, nearly double what it was under Donald Trump. Great job, Joe. The cost to heat and cool your home, that's also going through the roof. The cost for goods and services, that's costing more. That is being passed on to you as well. Now there's a nationwide shortage of even patio furniture. Just added to the list of shortages under Biden. That would be, beef shortages, chicken wings, lumber, gas, and don't forget the historic shortage of workers. And thanks to the administration's generous, never-ending shutdowns that are draconian and their handouts, employers cannot find workers anywhere. There are right now 9.2 million job openings in the United States. That would be an all-time high. The restaurant industry, as if they weren't hurt enough during the draconian shutdowns, they're probably suffering the most. According to one report, a third of the industry's workers, they're refusing to return to work. Large cities are also having a hard time hiring police. Oh, shocker. After local national Democrats have spent more than a year vilifying the police and stripped their budgets, defunding, dismantling, reimagining law enforcement. Many police departments are operating now reduced capacity, and those that are working, they're kind of afraid to do their job because they know they won't get support from their leaders, their elected officials. And can you believe it? Oh, what a shock. As a result, violent crime is now spiking in all of these cities. It's so bad that some Democrats are trying to pretend that it's Republicans that are responsible for the defund the police movement. Others are just doubling down on their defund dreams. Take a look.
The answer to that question is we must eliminate funding for CPB, ICE, and their parent organization, DHS. Time after time, we have seen it. as advocates on the ground, as human services agency on the ground, to continue to see over and over again that these agencies are inept.
Defund the Department of Homeland Security. I ask all of America tonight, have you forgotten? Have you forgotten 9/11? Have you forgotten radical Islamic terrorists, what they did that day? According to the radical socialist Democrats, we just stop enforcing laws at the southern border, this crisis will magically end. Can they really be that dumb and that radical? And many illegal immigrants, guess what? They're testing positive at a very high rate for COVID. So we have open borders, overcrowded cages that Biden and Harris have built in the middle of a pandemic, and then they're giving them free transportation to states all across the country. And by the way, the crisis at the border is yet another unresolved disaster, and that's only getting worse. Without a doubt, this administration is an absolute, well, we'll honor the great Adam Schiff. It's a Schiff show. Whoever's in charge at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, whoever you are, you're doing a pretty terrible job. And tonight, the American people are suffering on all levels tonight as a result. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.